I'm glad you found your way back here. I hope you're comfortable. If you've spent your day navigating the noise, the expectations, and that nagging feeling that you're constantly running out of time, I want you to just let the air out of your lungs. Lean back if you're in bed. Let the weight of your body sink into the mattress until you can't tell where you end and the blankets begin. We're going to step away from the surface of things tonight. We're going to leave the emails, the missed calls, and the overthinking behind. And we're going to travel somewhere so vast and so quiet that your worries will start to feel like grains of sand in a desert. We aren't here to learn. We're here to remember what it feels like to wonder. So close your eyes if you can. Let the darkness behind your eyelids become a canvas. Tonight, we aren't looking at the world we see in the daylight. We're looking at the hidden rhythms that move beneath it. Tonight, I want to take you away from the noise. I want you to close your eyes if you can. Imagine the air around you is cooling, growing thick with the scent of salt and ancient things. We are going to talk about a consciousness that is so vast, so alien, and so profoundly lonely that it makes our human heartaches feel like ripples in a puddle. We're going to talk about the Leviathans, but not the monsters of myth. We're talking about the real ones, the ones that are breathing right now beneath miles of black water. Specifically, we're going to look into the mind of the sperm whale. But before we dive into the biology, I want you to think about what it feels like to be truly misunderstood. We often feel isolated in our own heads, don't we? We struggle to find the right words to tell someone how we feel, and even when we find them, they never seem to carry the full weight of our reality. Now, imagine a creature that doesn't use words, but uses images made of sound. Imagine a creature that can see inside your body just by clicking at you. We think of whales as big, gentle mammals. We see them on nature documentaries, breaching the surface in slow motion. But that's only the 1% of their lives that they share with us. The other 99% happens in a world of absolute, crushing darkness, a place called the bathypelagic zone. The sperm whale is an anomaly. It is a creature of the sun and air that chooses to spend its life in a place that should kill it. It has the largest brain to ever exist on this planet, 6 times the size of yours. It is a massive biological supercomputer housed in a head that takes up 1/3 of its body. But why? Why does a predator need a brain that large? The answer lies in the silence, or rather the lack of it. When you're down there, 2 miles beneath the surface, your eyes are useless. The sun is a memory. But for a sperm whale, the darkness is as clear as a summer day. They use a process called echolocation, but calling it echolocation is like calling a supernova a light. They possess the most powerful sonar system in the known universe. They have an organ in their head called the spermaceti organ, a massive vat of waxy oil. When they want to see, they send a series of clicks through this oil. These clicks are so loud, reaching 230 decibels, that they could vibrate a human body to death if you were in the water with them. It is the loudest sound produced by any living thing. But here is where things become strange. Scientists have started to realize that these clicks aren't just for finding food. They are a language, but it's not a language of verbs and nouns. Because they use sound to see the world, when they communicate with each other, they are likely sending 3D acoustic holograms. Think about that. If I want to tell you about a flower, I have to use the word flower. But a sperm whale can likely project the shape of the flower directly into your mind using sound. They don't describe reality, they share it. It makes our own attempts at connection feel so fragile, doesn't it? We spend our whole lives trying to get people to understand us, and we fail so often. But these giants drifting in the blackness are constantly whispering entire worlds to one another. And yet, despite this incredible connection, there is a profound loneliness to their existence. I want to tell you about the deep dive. A sperm whale can hold its breath for over 90 minutes. When it decides to hunt, it leaves the surface, the only place where it can breathe, and it begins a slow, vertical descent into the abyss. As it goes down, the pressure increases. The air in its lungs is compressed. Its heart rate slows to a few beats per minute. Its blood is diverted away from its extremities and sent only to its heart and that massive, mysterious brain. It is entering a world of maximum pressure. It's a feeling we know well, isn't it? That sensation of being under so much pressure that you have to shut down the non-essential parts of yourself just to survive. You stop answering texts. You stop smiling at strangers. You just focus on the next breath. The sperm whale does this for a living. It goes down into the dark to face its only rival, the giant squid. We have almost no footage of these battles. They happen in a realm where we cannot go. We only see the aftermath, the circular scars on the whales' faces, the size of dinner plates where the squid suckers tried to hold on. But here is the part almost nobody talks about. When a sperm whale is down there 2 miles deep, fighting a monster in the dark, it is doing it in total silence from the rest of its family. It is alone. It is a warrior in a silent theater. And then it has to come back. It has to fight the buoyancy. It has to endure the expansion of its lungs. And when it breaks the surface, it takes that first explosive breath, a spout that can be heard for miles. It's a resurrection. Every 90 minutes they die to the world of light and are born again. But as we look closer at these creatures, we find things that challenge our understanding of culture. Sperm whales live in clans. And these clans don't just have different territories, they have different dialects. They use specific rhythmic patterns of clicks called codas. A whale from the Caribbean clan cannot understand a whale from the Pacific clan. They have identities. They have a sense of us and them. And they remember. In the 19th century, during the height of the whaling industry, whalers noticed something terrifying. At first, the whales were easy to catch. They would huddle together in a marguerite formation to protect their calves, making them easy targets. But within just a few years, the whales changed their tactics. Word had spread. Across thousands of miles of ocean, the whales had communicated the danger. They stopped huddling. They started swimming against the wind, where the sailing ships couldn't follow. They started attacking the boats. They learned. They taught each other. They had a social media of sound that spanned the globe before we ever laid the first telegraph cable. It makes me wonder what else they're talking about. What scientists discovered next was unexpected. When they began to look at the sleep patterns of sperm whales, they found something that looks like a scene from a science fiction movie. Sperm whales don't sleep horizontally, they sleep vertically. Imagine you are a diver drifting in the open ocean at night. You turn on your torch and suddenly you see them. A dozen massive 50-ton monoliths hanging perfectly still in the water, tail down, head up. They look like giant submerged pillars, like a sunken Stonehenge. They sleep for only 10 or 15 minutes at a time. They don't breathe while they sleep, they just drift. There is something so vulnerable about that image, isn't there? These massive predators capable of crushing a boat, just bobbing in the current like corks, completely unconscious. I think we all have moments where we feel like those vertical whales. We're just drifting. Not really moving forward, not really going down, just suspended in the middle of a vast dark ocean, waiting for the strength to take the next breath. But the sperm whale is only one part of the story. If the sperm whale is the warrior of the deep, then the blue whale is the ghost of the planet. We talk about blue whales as being big, but big is a word for a house or a truck. A blue whale is an impossibility. Their tongue weighs as much as an entire elephant. Their heart is the size of a bumper car. Their blood vessels are so wide that a human baby could swim through them. But here is the part that haunts me. Despite their size, despite being the largest animal to ever live, larger than any dinosaur, they are almost invisible. We barely know where they go. We don't know where they give birth. We don't know how they find each other in the vastness of the Atlantic. And they are quiet. Not silent, but quiet in a way that our ears can't hear. A blue whale's song is infrasonic. It is so low frequency that it travels through the water for hundreds, sometimes thousands of miles. When a blue whale sings in the Arctic, a whale in the Antarctic can hear it. They are talking across the entire planet. But because of the noise we've put into the ocean, the shipping engines, the sonar, the oil drills, their world has become foggy. Imagine trying to call out to your best friend, but you're standing in the middle of a construction site. You scream, but they can't hear you. Scientists believe that before the industrial age, a blue whale's song could be heard from one side of the ocean to the other. They were a single global community. Now, their world has shrunk. Their reach has been cut by 90%. They are getting lonelier. I think that's why so many people feel a connection to whales. We feel that fog, too. We are surrounded by more communication than ever before. Phones, apps, notifications. And yet, it feels harder than ever to actually be heard. We are singing into a construction site. But there is a specific whale, a single individual that represents the ultimate version of this struggle. Have you heard of the 52 Hertz whale? In 1989, the US Navy's hydrophone arrays picked up a strange signal. It had the rhythm of a whale song, but the frequency was all wrong. Most blue whales sing between 10 and 39 Hertz. This whale was singing at 52 Hertz. To other whales, it would sound like a high-pitched, distorted squeal. For over 30 years, scientists have tracked this single whale. It travels the same paths as the others. It calls out year after year, decade after decade. But it never gets a response. It is the loneliest whale in the world. It is speaking a language that only it knows. It is reaching out into the dark, searching for a resonance that might not exist. I've had days like that. I suspect you have too. Those days where you feel like you're speaking a frequency that nobody else can tune into, where you're surrounded by people but you're effectively invisible. But here is the part almost nobody talks about. The 52 Hertz whale isn't stopping. It hasn't given up. Every year it sings. Every year it moves. It continues to exist in its own unique frequency, a testament to the fact that you don't need an audience to have a voice. But before we go further into the mysteries of the deep, we have to look at the hidden reality of what these creatures are actually doing for our planet. We think of whales as consumers, but they are actually gardeners. There is a phenomenon called the whale pump. Whales feed in the deep, but they relieve themselves at the surface. Their waste is incredibly rich in iron and nitrogen. This waste acts as a fertilizer for phytoplankton, the tiny plants that produce 50% of the oxygen we breathe. One whale, over its lifetime, creates more oxygen than 1,000 trees. They are the lungs of the world, and when they die, they perform one last act of magnificent endurance. It's called a whale fall. When a whale dies, its body sinks. It falls through the twilight zone, through the midnight zone, and finally hits the abyssal plain, a place of desert-like emptiness. But the arrival of a whale carcass is like a city being built in the middle of a wasteland. Within hours, scavengers arrive. Sharks, hagfish, and crabs. They strip the flesh. But that's just the first stage. The second stage is even stranger. Once the flesh is gone, zombie worms, ostacs, appear. They have no mouths or stomachs. They use acid to melt the whale's bones and absorb the nutrients inside. A single whale carcass can support an entire ecosystem for over 100 years. Even in death, they are a sanctuary. Even their end is a beginning for thousands of other lives. It's a beautiful, haunting cycle. It reminds me that nothing is ever truly wasted. The crashes we experience, the things we lose, the parts of ourselves that die, they all become the foundation for something else. But here is where things become strange. Because while we are looking at the whales, something else is looking at them. There are ghosts in the water, predators that we are only just beginning to understand. I want to tell you about the orca. We call them killer whales, but they aren't whales. They are the largest species of dolphin, and they are the most intelligent, coordinated, and terrifying hunters on the planet. But they aren't just hunters. They are cultures. Orcas in the Pacific Northwest only eat salmon. They will starve to death before they eat a seal. Meanwhile, orcas in the Antarctic have learned how to work together to create wash waves that knock seals off ice floes. They have traditions, they have names, they have grief. There was an orca named Tahlequah who lost her calf. She carried the body of her dead baby for 17 days, over 1,000 miles, refusing to let it sink. The entire pod slowed down for her. They waited. They mourned with her. They felt the weight of that loss just as deeply as you felt yours. But before we go further into the dark side of the ocean, I want to talk about the bowhead whale. If the sperm whale is the warrior and the blue whale is the ghost, the bowhead is the elder. They live in the icy waters of the Arctic. They are slow. They are thick. They have skulls strong enough to break through 2 feet of solid ice just to get a breath of air. And they are old. For a long time we thought they lived for 60 or 70 years, but then in 2007, a bowhead was caught by Inuit hunters. Embedded in its neck was a stone harpoon point, a type of weapon that hadn't been used since the 1880s. Scientists began to study the lenses of their eyes. They found that some bowhead whales are over 211 years old. That whale swimming in the Arctic right now was alive when Abraham Lincoln was a boy. It was alive when the first steam engine was built. It has been swimming in that freezing water under that ice for 2 centuries. What does it know? What has it seen? It has spent 200 years in a world of pure, crystalline silence. It has seen the ice melt. It has seen the ships change from wood to steel. It has survived everything we've thrown at it. I think we need that kind of bowhead energy in our lives. That ability to just endure. To break through the ice when we need to breathe, and to keep swimming even when the world is changing in ways we don't understand. But I'm talking a lot, aren't I? The silence of the archive is deep tonight. I can feel the weight of these stories settling in the room. We've only just scratched the surface of the Leviathans. We haven't even talked about the narwhal, the unicorn of the sea, whose tusk is actually a sensory organ with 10 million nerve endings. We haven't talked about the right whale, whose name is a tragic reminder of our own cruelty. And we haven't talked about the hidden reality of what happens when whales and humans try to bridge the gap. There is a story from Australia, from a place called Twofold Bay, that will change the way you think about wild animals. It's a story of a partnership that lasted for generations. A partnership between a man and a whale named Old Tom. But I think we should save that for a little later. For now, I want you to just stay in this moment. Listen to the rhythm of your own breath. It's the same rhythm as the whales. You are a mammal. You are made of the same water and the same salt. You aren't a speck in the universe. You are a Leviathan in your own right. You have oceans inside you. You have a hydrogen wall of your own. I'm going to pause here. Let the sound of the deep settle. If you're still awake, I want you to think about the 52 Hertz whale. I want you to know that your voice, even if it feels wrong, is being recorded by the universe. We were speaking of the Leviathans, the warriors, the ghosts, and the elders. But before we move deeper into their history, I want to talk about the part of the ocean that truly haunts our imagination, the part where the scale of life becomes almost too big to comprehend. I want to tell you about the memory of water. We think of the ocean as a vast, empty space, but for a whale, the water is a library. Sound travels 4 times faster in water than in air, and it doesn't just fade, it lingers. In the deep, there are sound channels, layers of water where the temperature and pressure are just right, that act like fiber optic cables for acoustics. A song sung by a humpback in the Caribbean can, under the right conditions, ripple all the way to the coast of Africa. Imagine if every word you ever whispered was still vibrating somewhere in the room. Imagine if the I love yous and the I'm sorries and the I don't know what to do were all still there, caught in the currents, waiting for someone to tune in. That is the world whales live in. They are swimming through a history of their own voices. And this brings us to the humpback whale. If the sperm whale is the warrior, the humpback is the artist. They are the most famous singers in the animal kingdom, but what most people don't realize is that they don't just sing, they compose. Each year, all the males in a specific population will sing the same song. It's complex with rhymes and themes and choruses that can last for 20 minutes. But over the course of the season, the song evolves. One whale might add a new flourish, a clicking staccato, or a sweeping low groan. If the other whales like it, they pick it up. By the end of the year, the song is entirely different. It's a global pop chart for the giants. But here is where things become strange. Scientists have observed cultural revolutions. They've seen a song from a pod of whales in Western Australia travel all the way across the South Pacific to French Polynesia. As it travels, it replaces the local song. It's like the entire ocean suddenly decides to stop listening to jazz and starts listening to rock and roll. Why? They don't need the song to find food. They don't necessarily need it to survive. They do it because they are part of a culture. They are searching for beauty. They are searching for a way to say, I am here, and this is how I feel today. Doesn't that sound familiar? We spend so much of our lives trying to leave a mark. We post photos, we write journals, we build things. We are all humpbacks, singing into the dark, hoping that someone somewhere will pick up the tune. But sometimes the song is dangerous. I promised to tell you about Old Tom and the Killers of Eden. In the late 1800s, in a small town called Eden on the coast of Australia, a group of orcas did something that shouldn't be possible. They formed an alliance with humans. A massive male orca, known as Old Tom, became the leader of a pod that would hunt baleen whales and herd them into the bay for the local whalers. Tom would go to the mouth of the harbor and flop his tail, a signal called flopping, to tell the men that a whale was coming. The orcas would keep the whale trapped in the bay, preventing it from escaping while the men did the hunting. And the payment? The law of the tongue. The whalers would leave the carcass in the water for 24 hours so the orcas could eat the tongue and the lips, their favorite parts, before the men hauled the rest of the whale in for the oil. This partnership lasted for 3 generations of humans. The orcas and the whalers knew each other by name. They protected each other. When a whaler fell overboard, the orcas would circle him, protecting him from sharks until his crew could pick him up. It is one of the only recorded instances in history of a cooperative hunt between humans and a wild apex predator. But it makes me wonder, who was training whom? We like to think we are the masters of the world. We think we tamed the ocean. But old Tom and his pod weren't pets. They were business partners. They saw a way to make their lives easier, and they used us to do it. It challenges the hidden reality of our ego. We think we're the only intelligent actors on this stage, but the Leviathans have been watching us for a very, very long time. And they are still watching. Let's move from the hunters to the unicorns. Let's talk about the narwhal. For centuries, the tusks of narwhals were sold to European royalty as unicorn horns. They were said to have the power to detect poison and cure diseases. Queen Elizabeth I once bought one for the price of an entire castle. But the truth of the narwhal is far more fascinating than any myth. That horn isn't a horn at all. It's a tooth, a left-side canine tooth that grows straight through the narwhal's upper lip, spiraling out up to 10 feet long. And it isn't a weapon, it's a sensor. The tusk is porous. It has 10 million nerve endings that lead directly to the whale's brain. By waving its tusk through the water, a narwhal can detect changes in salinity, temperature, and even the scent of fish in the water miles away. It is essentially a 10-foot-long exposed nerve. Imagine being that sensitive. Imagine feeling every shift in the wind, every change in the chemistry of the air around you, right in your very bones. It would be overwhelming, wouldn't it? To feel everything so intensely. I think some of us are narwhals. We are highly sensitive people. We feel the pressure of a room the moment we walk into it. We feel the subtle shifts in someone's voice or the hidden tension in a conversation. We often view this sensitivity as a burden. We wish we could be thicker-skinned, like the bowhead. But the narwhal needs that sensitivity to survive the shifting ice of the Arctic. Without that 10-foot nerve, it would be trapped. Maybe your sensitivity isn't a flaw. Maybe it's your tusk. Maybe it's the very thing that is helping you navigate a world that is colder and more dangerous than it looks. But here is where things become dark. We need to talk about the right whale. They were given that name by the early whalers for a devastating reason. They were the right whale to kill. They are slow, they are curious, and because of their high blubber content, they float when they are dead. They were the first to be hunted to near extinction. Today, there are fewer than 350 North Atlantic right whales left on Earth. Every single one of them has a name. Every single one of them is tracked by satellites. They are living in a shadow realm. They are a species on the brink of becoming a ghost. But they aren't going quietly. Scientists have noticed that right whales have started whispering. Mothers and calves, who usually call out to each other with loud, booming moans, have changed their frequency. They now use very quiet, short grunts that can only be heard a few hundred feet away. They are trying to hide from the orcas, and perhaps they are trying to hide from us. It's a heartbreaking adaptation. A creature that once sang to the horizon is now forced to whisper to its own child just to survive. I think we've all had to whisper at some point in our lives. We've had to hide our true selves or keep our voices low because the environment we were in felt too dangerous to be loud. We've had to shrink ourselves just to get through the day. But the archive remembers the loud songs. The archive remembers when the right whale was the king of the Atlantic. And this brings me to a discovery that was made only a few years ago, one that bridges the gap between the ocean and the stars. It's the discovery of the whale songs of the stars. Astronomers using the Kepler Space Telescope notice that certain stars have a pulse. They vibrate at frequencies that, when translated into sound, are eerily similar to the rhythmic codas of sperm whales. Is it a coincidence? Or is there a fundamental math to the universe that links the largest heartbeats on Earth to the heartbeats of the stars? I like to think that we are all part of a single massive composition, that the sperm whale clicking in the dark and the star pulsing in the void are just different instruments in the same orchestra. And you're an instrument too. You might feel like you're out of tune tonight. You might feel like your strings are frayed and your soundboard is cracked. But remember the humpback's revolution. Even if you've been singing the same sad song for years, you can change the melody. You can pick up a new flourish. You can let the culture of your own life evolve. I'm going to leave you with one final thought for this part. There is a place in the North Pacific called the Whale Graveyard. It's a region where the currents naturally pull the bodies of fallen giants. But it isn't a place of sadness. If you were to go there, you would see thousands of zombie worms and deep-sea lilies glowing with bioluminescence. You would see a city of light built on the remains of the past. Nothing is ever lost. The whale falls and the city rises. You might feel like you're falling right now. You might feel like the things you've lost are gone forever, but they are just becoming the foundation for the next city. I'm going to stay here in the silence. The water is still. The forest of bells is quiet. If you're still awake, I want you to take a deep, slow breath. A Leviathan breath. You've survived the pressure of the day. You've survived the iron rain of your thoughts. You are here. In the next part, we're going to talk about the secret languages of the ocean. We're going to talk about the dolphins who use names for each other, and the belugas who were used as Cold War spies. And we're going to talk about the hidden reality of the bloop, the sound that we thought was a whale, but turned out to be something much more terrifying. I want to talk to you about the beluga. They are often called the canaries of the sea. If you've ever seen one, you know why. They are bright, startlingly white, and they seem to possess a facial expression that looks suspiciously like a smile. But their real magic is their voice. They don't just click or moan. They whistle, chirp, bell, and squeal. They possess a repertoire of sound so diverse that early sailors thought they were hearing ghosts singing through the hulls of their wooden ships. But there is a hidden reality to the beluga that is far more unsettling than a ghost story. During the Cold War, both the US and the Soviet Union realized that these creatures were more than just biological curiosities. They were geniuses of acoustics. There is a famous case of a beluga named Nock. Nock lived in a Navy research facility, and one day a diver surfaced and asked his colleagues, "Who told me to get out?" The researchers were confused. No one had spoken. They began to monitor the tanks, and they realized it was Nock. He had been listening to the divers talking through their regulators for years. He had learned to mimic the rhythm, the cadence, and the specific frequencies of the human voice. He wasn't just making noise. He was trying to bridge the gap. He was trying to speak our language. Think about the profound effort of that. A creature from a world of water and pressure, trying to reshape its very anatomy to mimic the sounds of a creature that lives in a world of gas and light. Why? Maybe for the same reason you're listening to me right now. A search for connection. A refusal to be alone in the dark. But as we look at the beluga, we have to look at the dolphin, specifically their names. For a long time, we thought humans were the only ones who used names. We thought animals just recognized scent or shape. But we now know that every bottlenose dolphin creates a signature whistle in their first year of life. It is a unique sound that belongs only to them. When dolphins meet in the open ocean, they don't just greet each other. They trade whistles. I am whistle A. I am whistle B. And here is the part that will make you look at the ocean differently. They talk about each other behind their backs. Researchers have recorded dolphins using another dolphin's signature whistle when that dolphin isn't there. They are referring to an absent individual. They are naming their friends, their mothers, their rivals. They have a social map of the world that is just as complex as yours. They have best friends they haven't seen in 20 years, but whose name they still remember perfectly. It makes me wonder about the signature whistle you carry. Not your name on your ID card, but the sound of your soul. The unique frequency that you put out into the world. Do you ever feel like you've forgotten yours? In the rush to be what everyone else needs you to be, a worker, a partner, a stranger in a crowd, it's easy to let your own whistle fade into the background noise. But the archive remembers. The universe keeps the frequency. But I promised to tell you about the bloop. In 1997, the world of marine biology was rocked by a sound. It was captured by autonomous hydrophone arrays, originally designed to track Soviet submarines. It was a powerful, ultra-low frequency sound that lasted for about a minute. It was detected by sensors over 3,000 miles apart. When scientists looked at the audio profile, it looked like a biological sound. It had the organic quality of a whale call. But there was a problem. To produce a sound that loud, a sound that could travel 3,000 miles through the ocean, the creature would have to be significantly larger than a blue whale. For years, the internet went wild. People spoke of Cthulhu, of prehistoric Leviathans lurking in the shadows of the Mariana Trench. But the truth, discovered years later, was perhaps even more haunting. The bloop wasn't a creature. It was the sound of an icequake. It was the sound of a massive iceberg, miles wide, cracking and calving off the Antarctic ice sheet. The sound of the very foundation of our world breaking apart under its own weight. It's a reminder that the monsters we fear are rarely what we think they are. We stay awake at night worrying about the predators, the people who might hurt us, the failures that might define us. But the real bloop in our lives is usually just the sound of things changing. The sound of an old version of our life cracking so that a new one can drift away. It's loud, it's terrifying, it feels like a monster. But it's just the earth moving. I want to leave you with one final story before we close the archive for the night. It's about the gray whale. In the 1850s, gray whales were known as devilfish. They were hunted in the lagoons of Baja California, and they fought back with a ferocity that was legendary. They would smash whaling boats to splinters to protect their calves. They hated us, and they had every reason to. But something happened in the 1970s. In those same lagoons, a fisherman named Francisco Mayoral was out in his boat when a gray whale approached him. Instead of attacking, the whale stayed by the boat. Slowly, Francisco reached out his hand and touched the whale's head. The whale didn't move. It stayed there, allowing itself to be touched. Today, in those lagoons, friendly whales are a phenomenon. Mothers will bring their calves right up to the small tourist boats. They will nudge the boats, asking to be scratched. They will look you directly in the eye, a massive ancient eye the size of an orange, and they will wait. Scientists don't know why this happened. We are the descendants of the people who tried to wipe them out, and they are the descendants of the devilfish who fought back. But somehow they decided to forgive us. They chose to bridge the gap. They chose to stop fighting the past and start experiencing the present. If a 50-ton giant that was hunted to the edge of darkness can find the capacity to trust a human hand, what can we do? Maybe we can forgive ourselves for the devilfish moments in our own past. Maybe we can stop smashing the boats and just let the world touch us for a second. The water is still now. We've talked about the warrior whales, the ancient elders, the lonely singers, and the giants who whisper to their children. We've looked at the iron rain of the stars and the diamond blizzards of the deep. I hope your heart feels a little lighter now, not because the world is less mysterious, but because you realize you are a part of the mystery. You are a Leviathan in a world of Leviathans. If you're still awake, I want you to do one thing. Take one last deep breath. Feel your lungs expand, that magnificent mammalian machinery that keeps you tethered to this life. You are safe. The archive is closing its doors for the night, but the stories are still there, vibrating in the sound channels of your mind. Rest now. Let the currents take you. I'll be here when the sun goes down again, waiting in the silence with a new entry, a new mystery, and the same quiet voice. Until then, keep your whistle clear. And remember, the world is much deeper than it looks. Good night, or perhaps good morning.